Great, thanks, Jasneet. I'm Rebecca Cloak. I'm Head of Programme Delivery in the Place Shaping team at Westminster. Lauren, did you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Lauren Shevels. I'm a Place Shaping Officer and I work closely with Jasneet and Rebecca. I'm the programme lead for Greening Westminster and I'm working closely with Rebecca.
The funding programme Greening Westminster has been running for a number of years. It was previously known as the Open Spaces Greener Places programme, which you may have heard of. But this last year, it's undergone a review and it now supports the Council's Fairer Westminster priority to strengthen the role of the voluntary sector and community groups in leading the green transformation of our neighbourhoods. So the programme still retains its three key priorities, which are to improve and increase the quantity of green assets across the city, the quality of our open spaces and green infrastructure, and the impact of our green assets, delivering a range of benefits to individuals, communities, and the environment. But in addition to those original three priorities, we are now supporting a partnership approach and a more supporting more community-focused projects. Next slide, please. So this is a map of the city and it shows the 19 projects that have previously been supported by the programme, as you can see, spread across the city. It includes a real range of different types of projects, from installing a water fountain in a public park, to creating wildflower meadows, planting for pollinators, installing outdoor gym equipment. There's quite a variety of things that it's funded in the past. Next slide, please. I'm just going to focus on giving you examples of three different projects to give a sense of the types of things that this fund is able to fund, and from three different sort of sectors. So the first one is an internal application, which by that we mean a team separately to the Place Shaping team at Westminster, who were delivering allotment space at Lisson Green alongside the community. The middle one that you see there is at St John's Church in Kensal Rise, and was an application from a member of the community. And on the right-hand side, George's Park, which is just off Baker Street, was delivered through a business improvement district. So three different types. So I'll just quickly talk about each one of those. So the Lisson Green estate community allotments. It was run through the Church Street regeneration programme in the Church Street area of Westminster. Secured funding in 2021 to revitalise the pocket parks of the Lisson Green estate in Church Street, as part of a wider sort of regeneration project that's going on there. So council officers worked with community delivery partners Groundwork London and also Hammersmith Community Gardeners Association to help deliver the project. It was focused on connecting the estate gardens and providing ecological improvements, and really encouraged resident engagement through community planting workshops that were held. So to give you a sense, that total project value was £66,640, and it had a programme grant given to it from this programme of £50,000, which is the topmost grant awarded through the programme. Next slide, please. So this gives an example of the church grounds around St John's Church in Kensal Green, just off the Harrow Road. So this was implemented as a phase to the greening strategy of the grounds, community grounds around the church, which are open to the public at all times. And it included transforming an unused tarmac yard space into a new community green space. It saw installation of a mixed species plant beds. It increased biodiversity for the pollinators in the area, and included 2 beehives. It saw 6 new benches being provided for everybody to enjoy the peace and tranquility that was created. and yew tree hedges around the edge of the site, which also is helping to combat air pollution to a certain extent from the road. So the project value there was 62,000 and had a programme grant of 32,000. So the remaining money was from other sources, partnership funding. Next slide, please. So this example, George's Park, a parklet created just off Baker Street and was delivered through the Business Improvement District in the area. As it says here, much new public space created new greening in the area, which was much needed and for workers and residents to enjoy during their breaks. It transformed an unused and unloved space into a parklet, and it's an excellent example of shared vision successfully delivered through collaborative partnerships. So this project was a total value of £33,000 and had a programme grant from this programme of 15,500, just to give you a sense. So Lauren's now going to talk through some of the policy that's influenced the New Look programme.
Yeah, so as Rebecca mentioned, this programme has gone under a refresh and we wanted to align Greening Westminster with some of the current policy that's available in the borough. So basically, following Westminster City Council declaring a climate emergency, the Climate Action Plan was brought out and focuses on 5 key themes, of which Greening Westminster focuses primarily on the green and resilient city, which looks at maintaining and protecting council trees and increasing tree canopy cover. It also looks to inspire residents, communities and organisations to increase tree planting. It also supports greening within public realm schemes to help enhance carbon sinks and provide climate resilience. And it also engages and enables residents and organisations to increase their resilience of local climate impact. So we also referred to the city plan, which some of you may be familiar with. The city plan highlights deficiencies across the borough. So we focused on open space deficiency as well as wildlife deficiency, as this programme looks to enhance nature not only for people, but also, of course, for biodiversity and our natural environment. And then following the launch of the Fairer Westminster strategy, which was brought out in October last year and also includes kind of 5 key themes. One of the prominent themes is fairer environment. We also realigned the programme to focus on some of that. So it involved us looking and referring to the environmental justice measure, which I'll get onto later. And also it's refocused the programme so that we look at engaging with communities and residents on greening projects across the city. And this is a real key commitment from the Labour administration here in Westminster. So I mentioned already the environmental justice measure tool. This is a new data tool, which we can share a link to in the chat. It highlights the differences in how people are impacted by their environment and climate change. And it shows the distribution of green sustainable resources and spaces across the city. The idea of the environmental justice measure tool is to give residents the information they need to act and influence, and also to reduce negative environmental impacts. And it's also to inform the council about how and where we invest in the local environment. And why is this important for Greening Westminster? It's a tool that we can use to raise awareness, and it also will help us focus resources where they are most needed. So this is just a kind of a running animation to show you how the different indicators, I think maybe there are between 8 and 9 different indicators which inform the overall environmental justice measure. So things like flood risk, heat risk, percentage of people commuting via public transport or cycling and walking, and air quality, also including things like energy performance certificates as well. So quite comprehensive. And this was something that was developed by our innovation and change team here at in-house at Westminster. So this is just an idea to give you, to kind of whet your appetite for what sort of projects we hope to deliver. It might be community gardening, food growing, edible classrooms, tree planting, adventure playgrounds, or even greening of churchyards, as Rebecca's talked through. So I'm now going to pass back to Rebecca so she can talk about who can apply.
Yeah, a few more details now about the funding and the process to go through. So firstly, who can apply? The programme's open to any organisation that wishes to improve or increase the quantity, quality or impact of green assets across the city. The funding programme this time will be accepting two different types of applicants, which Lauren will talk about in more detail in a bit, but they are Greening Westminster Professional. This is applicants who would fall into the category of, for example, being business improvement districts, perhaps private businesses, organisations, and also including in that category other internal Westminster City Council teams. And then there's the Greening Westminster Communities stream of the programme, which will be encouraging applications from grassroots organisations and community groups. Next slide, please. So there are some key must-haves for us to be able to consider an application, and we will be prioritising. Sorry, before we get to that, I think that's the next slide. I think we'll be prioritising projects that focus on community greening projects that serve and strengthen local communities, that focus on the need outlined in the environmental justice measure, as Lauren's just talked through, that will have a clear maintenance and management strategy to ensure the longevity of the project, and also that can demonstrate additional support from volunteer time and community buy-in. Next slide. And here are the must-haves. So whilst we will be keen to see projects that prioritise those things in the last slide, every project must be a site that's within Westminster, be publicly accessible. It must be a project that aims to complete within 1 year of receiving the funding, so therefore is likely to be, fairly small scale in size, or a project that's already sort of underway. And the project's environmental impact has been considered, and appropriate measures are in place to reduce the carbon footprint and ensure climate resilience. Now, that on that last point, we appreciate that might not be immediately obvious. So we're also giving the option to speak with a council officer about measures that you might consider for your project to ensure that that's sort of taken into account. Lauren.
Yeah, so I'm going to do a very quick overview of what that looks like in the next kind of coming months and over the next year in terms of project delivery. So the expression of interest opened at the start of March, and as such we're running these online Q&As to answer any questions about the application process, or even the kind of the bigger picture of your project. The application period closes at the end of April and the start of May, so you must submit an expression of interest because that is key to determining which funding stream you fall into, and that closes on the 28th of April, and then the subsequent full submission is the 2nd of May. And then we will be announcing successful projects at the start of June, and as Rebecca said, we expect those projects to conclude within a year. So I'm going to take you through the application process and the sort of support that you can expect from Westminster in developing your proposal. So step 1 is submitting an expression of interest, and you can do so via the Greening Westminster website. So under the web page, there's a big button that says submit expression of interest, and then it's quite a straightforward form to submit. So what we need to know about you and your organisation is your name, address, legal status, and then this is also an opportunity to describe your organisation and tell us which funding stream you think you fall into, and then we'll do an internal kind of review of that as well. And then outlining your organisation and project concept. It's very light touch, and it's also absolutely fine to say that it's just a concept. We're not expecting you to have all of the answers in the expression of interest step of the application. And then all applications are encouraged to bring match funding, as we've seen from the 3 examples that Rebecca presented. A lot of the potential was unlocked in partnership funding. And in the case of Greening Westminster Professional Stream, we're expecting 20% match funding of the overall project sum. The second part of that expression of interest form is telling us about your project more specifically. And just to make you aware, the answer to all of these questions must be yes to be eligible for funding. So is your project publicly accessible? Yes. Does your project deliver physical improvements? Yes. Will your project be delivered in Westminster? Yes. And have you considered the environmental impact of your project? Yes. If you answer no, you'll be offered support from Westminster City Council to do so. And then once your funding stream has been determined, you'll receive one of 2 application forms which you need to submit by the 2nd of May. And you're very welcome to submit supporting materials such as photographs of the site and any plans that you might have developed. And yeah, as I said, it's a very straightforward form that you just submit to the Greening Westminster at westminster.gov.uk website email address. And then we want to make sure that this is accessible to all community groups, as well as bids and private entities, neighbourhood forums and Westminster projects. So we, the place shaping team, will be helping you to prepare your application, and we're trying to make this supportive and as accessible as possible. So we're running a series of engagement events around this. So the first of those engagement events are these online introductions, of which we're taking part of now. So you'll have the opportunity to ask questions at the end of this presentation about the application process or your project. We're also running a Greening Westminster workshop, and this will be run at City Hall and is an in-person event run by the place shaping team, where we're inviting in-house expertise to come and give advice on your project. We'll have members from our highways team, communities team, and even our arboriculturalists from the trees team. What that looks like in terms of the afternoon. So we've scheduled it for Thursday, the 30th of March, and we're imminently setting up an Eventbrite page from our website. We're running it for 2 hours, and it will be split into kind of 3 key sections. So we'll be setting the scene in the first half an hour. We'll then be hearing from expert voices in the second half an hour. And then for the last hour of the workshop, we'll break out into focus tables where potential applicants are welcome to join the in-house experts and ask specific questions on developing their proposal. Then, as part of making this programme more accessible to community groups, we are offering one-to-one feedback sessions on your proposals. Of course, if you're a private or professional entity, we're always available via email inquiry or over the phone. But again, the focus on this is really supporting community groups who perhaps don't feel they have the skills or the capacity to deliver proposals. And then the final stage of that is submitting. And then I just wanted to talk very briefly about project delivery and what's expected if you are successful in gaining funding. So as I mentioned, successful projects will be announced at the start of June, and that involves a project kickoff meeting. And then projects conclude within 12 months of starting, so June 2024. And if you are part of the the Greening Westminster professional funding stream, this top blue bar, you'll be offered a Westminster City Council project sponsor. So that is an individual officer who will be responsible for providing project support in the form of emails, but also they'll be acting as financial gatekeeper, and they'll be issuing purchase orders and paying your invoices for your contractors. You'll have a 6-month check-in with that project sponsor, and then an end-of-year programme review as well. And then for the community, the Green Westminster community stream, you will be assigned a community delivery partner, and this will be a more intensive method of support throughout the year. We're offering a number of support sessions, which could take the form. It's not all of these, but it could be a selection of these, site appraisal, community workshops. Again, you'll have a financial update and progress meeting halfway through. We'll also include capacity building for volunteers and staff to ensure the longevity of these projects, and then a series of handover workshops, as well as an end of programme review and project launch. So just to recap before we finish the presentation section of this online Q&A, we've got the Greening Westminster workshop, which is at City Hall, 64 Victoria Street, on Thursday the 30th of March. We've got the expression of interest deadline, which is the 28th of April at midday. And then we have the full application submission, which is a deadline of the 2nd of May. So we've made that the Tuesday after the first bank holiday weekend in May at 9 a.m. Great. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we're going to take any questions. Yeah, Chris.
Just a couple of, thank you very, very much for that presentation. It was great, and as said pretty much everything I certainly need to know. Just a couple of questions, if I may. On partnerships, you said that you would look favourably on applicants who have got partnerships. Are partnerships arranged by us, or do you help us with introductions to private firms or whoever it might be in Westminster who might be interested in our kind of project, or do we find that ourselves? That's my first question.
I mean, I'm happy to answer that. I think the onus would be on you to find those partnerships.
Right.
Yeah.
And do you take a view on the balance between how much you would give? I noticed in the examples you gave, there was one that the project was 60 something and you gave 50. So you obviously, you were happy to give the lion's share of that project. And there was one where you gave a bit less. What's your thinking about the balance between private money and Westminster money?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to need to sort of assess on a case-by-case basis, and depending how big the project is overall. I mean, I think as far as we're concerned, the more partnership funding that can be brought to the project, the better. That's all more investment in Westminster's green assets, and we very much welcome that. I think that's where we're at.
Yeah, but you don't have a list you can share of companies and people in the area who might be interested in these sorts of greening projects? Because I mean, I'm a citizen. I work with Andy, actually, who's on this call as well. We've obviously got quite good relations with local businesses, but to turn up and say, hi, can we have 5,000 quid or something? That's quite a big ask. So do you have contacts or a list at least of people we could approach?
I mean, I have to be honest and say we don't have that. But I take your point, and perhaps that's something we can go away and consider. Whether we will be in a position to be able to provide you with anything for this round of funding, I'm not, I can't promise. Yeah. But I take your point.
I mean, if you think about the moment, there's all this hoo-ha politically about windfall tax and green energy, and I thought to myself, to go after some private money where there are companies that have made a lot of money from the windfall, etc. They would, but I don't know who they are. But some of them, I'm sure, are headquartered in Paddington Base and other places. And it'd be interesting if you have colleagues in other parts of the council who can advise on that. It'd be very, very helpful from our perspective, because I'm nobody. I don't know these companies. I have another question, but maybe other people would like to ask questions before I put my next question.
Just are there other pots of money that we might want to consider? Because I got the impression from our councillors that this is one of several sort of projects. This is obviously a specifically a community one, but would we want to consider, or would we want to ask our councillors about other potential streams, or is this better to go down this route?
I mean, there are other funding opportunities available, which are all listed on the council's website. Lauren, do you want to come in there?
Yeah, I'll just dig out the link for that, but that's a good point, because the Greening Westminster is just one community fund, and actually they extend beyond community funds as well. And we've recently at the council done a real push to make those more visible on our website. So we've got a whole dedicated page of funding grants now. Let me just dig that out for you. Obviously this focuses on greening that's publicly accessible, but there are others. Give me 1 second.
So I guess it, would depend very much on the project as to, which funding criteria it fits best with, and if there's, a couple that, I think from this funding's point of view, to be accessing funds from another Westminster pot is good, is welcomed.
Sorry, you're just digging that out now, Lauren? Will you follow up with that later?
I'm
link.
Just digging it out now. Give me 2 seconds.
Well, if you tell me where to look, I'm sure I can find it.
You'd be surprised though how
I might be surprised.
I can almost guarantee that I won't be able to find it. So Lauren, it'd be great if you stick it in the chat.
I'm definitely on it. Do not worry. It's taken me this long to find it, so I've got it for you.
Yeah.
There we go.
I've got another question, but maybe the other user or the other person would like to ask a question before. Yeah.
No, I'm okay. I think it's all good stuff. I just was thinking, if you wanted to get in touch with local businesses, if there's a business improvement district in the area, that might be a good option. I don't know which area you're from, but
we're Hyde Park Estate.
So I could probably find out where the local bid is, but there's a big list, isn't there, on the Westminster website as well, because I work with bids, so I'm part of.
When you say business improvement development
district.
District. Okay.
Yeah,
I know our bids, Chris.
Okay.
But they'd probably be chomping at the bit to be part of the community at this particular
great.
time.
Wonderful. Yeah. Can I just ask? It's not clear to me whether the project ask funding can include money for social outreach. So the project which I'm working on has quite a big education element in it. And I'm hoping to do quite a lot of what they call social prescribing. So to get in people with special needs, people with disability, kids in schools, to educate them around environmental rights. And the project is about creating a human rights greenhouse in one of the squares in Westminster. But can the project include, for example, one would want to have a whole program of outreach to these people, and that takes time, it takes money. Can that be included in the grant, in the grant that the request we make for a grant?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing to just check is whether your proposal is for the greenhouse to be a permanent feature, because this funding, yeah, great. This funding is very much about not funding sort of temporary installations, but a permanent sort of asset.
Yeah.
Great. And I think as part of that, then, as long as it's part of a sort of long-term physical intervention, then supporting workshops like that would be welcomed. Yeah.
Okay. So that can be included in the grant application.
Yes.
Yeah. Great. Thank you.
So I'm going to be a bore now. I really appreciate. Chris isn't surprised. It'd be great if we can not have to sign up to Eventbrite for the events. I don't know whether we can contact you directly or not. I just don't like giving my data to these big tech firms. I don't know whether that's impossible or whether I'm just going to be that annoying person that you wish wasn't joining your course.
We hadn't actually thought about that, but if that was prohibitive to you and it would stop you coming to the workshop at City Hall on the Thursday, the 30th of March, then you're very welcome to send us an email at at Greening Westminster. Let me just put that email address.
I can. I mean, I did sign up just now, but then I've just been going through the process to delete my account with them. I just didn't want to have to do it each time. That was all. So it's great. What's the email address? Sorry, Greening.
It's Greening Westminster. I'm just putting it in the
Okay,
chat.
okay.
Greening Westminster at westminster.gov.uk.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's checked daily. It's not like it's going to kind of a dead inbox. So
Okay. Cool, thank you.
Great. Any more questions? As practical as they are, it's all good feedback.
I don't think I got. Oh, sorry. After you, whoever just spoke.
No, I was just wondering about the amounts of money. I mean, presumably it's flexible in determining, you know, which project will give most value to the community and benefit to the. But is there a ceiling?
Yes, 50,000 is the biggest grant that we will give through the professional greening.
And does it cover? Is it only capital costs? It's not maintenance.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yeah. But I mean, we're very happy to talk through some of the detail around that. Obviously, the management and maintenance is key to that. So very happy to sort of talk through how that's going to be maintained after it's installed.
So I've just thought 2 more questions. They're less boring, hopefully more on the on the subject. I'm just thinking timelines. So you said that aim to start the projects, if we're successful, aim to start projects in June. I'm just thinking, I mean, obviously they're permanent anyway, so this is a bit of a sort of academic question, I suppose, but I'm just thinking, wouldn't it be nice if we could get our stuff on the ground like well in time for the summer? I'm just thinking sort of realistically, do you think if we didn't get, I mean, we're thinking sort of parklet type stuff. I just don't know. You've probably got more experience than I have in terms of how long it takes to, once you've got the go, are we then realistically not going to get it done by the end of the summer? Or do you think there's some realistic chance of that? Do we need to get stuff prepared before? Or was this sort of all the stuff we'd talk in the workshop?
I think so, and I think it's very much down to each individual, location and, each individual case. It depends where it's going, if there's any implications with that or ownership of the land. There's a fair bit of stuff to work through as to, be able to say how quickly that could happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think also like purchasing the actual like kit. I mean, is that something we would have to do for you? Or is it something you can help us with? Or is it stuff that we're going to have to allow a long time to go and find somebody? Or what's your thoughts on that generally? I'm sort of thinking of buying like, the wooden pots and all that sort of malarkey.
Do you want to go, Lauren?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a really good question, as it's about very practical delivery of these projects. So we at the workshop, as kind of a kickoff, we'll have people on hand to advise about the current costings of items as well, because obviously we're aware that with inflation, prices are moving, and actually where you might be able to source these materials from for XYZ, whether it's a greenhouse, a planter, or even just bags of compost, etc. So we will have people on hand who will be able to answer more kind of on the ground questions like that. But again, it's kind of a project by project basis, and of course we also accept that the best time to plant things in the year is actually March. So we'll be way beyond that. So I think, as I said, project by project, and it really depends about the scope and what exactly your concept is.
Yeah, okay, that's fair enough. Yeah, because also if we were doing something on the highways, and obviously you've then got issues around TMOs and all that sort of stuff, but you obviously your council officers would be on hand then anyway, from what you're just saying, to be able to advise on that.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Okay, well, if there's no more questions, thank you very much for attending, and we look forward to seeing you in person at City Hall.
I was just going to ask one last thing. Sorry to interrupt you. I did do an expression of interest, and I didn't get an email back confirming the receipt of it. So I don't know what to do, but if you could look into that, I'd be very grateful.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you ever so much. I'm grateful. Thank you.
Great,
Cool, thank
thank
you.
you very much. See you
All right.
soon.
Thank you. Thanks again. Goodbye.
Bye.